Before fast food and freezer aisles, dinner came from whatever you could scrape together. These are the 25-band working man's meals that vanished after the 1950s, and they just might make your mouth water. Take creamed chipped beef on toast. Sliced dried beef, drowned in a salty white sauce, dumped over plain white bread. The Army called it SOS, and it didn't stand for anything nice. Cornmeal mush was a go-to. You'd boil cornmeal till it thickened, eat it hot, then fry leftovers in the morning. It was filling, cheap and tasteless, but it worked. Then there were lard sandwiches. Just bread and a smear of pig fat. Maybe a pinch of salt if you were lucky. Calories were calories. Milk toast was another one. Toast soaked in hot milk. A little sugar if it was payday. Soft, soggy, and not much else. Fried bologna? That was high class. A working man's lunchbox classic. Fry a slice until the edges curled, slap it on bread, and call it lunch. Some mornings started with tomato gravy over biscuits. Just bacon grease, flour, and canned tomatoes. No sausage, no extras. Just thick, red sauce to get you through the day. Even scraps had value. Bread and drippings meant leftover grease poured on bread. Cold or hot, it didn't matter. Depression cake showed up on special days. No eggs, no milk, no butter. Just boiled raisins, sugar, and flour. A sweet vintage dessert from hard times, just enough to count as a treat. Some nights, the only meat in reach was a jar of pickled pig's feet, squatting on the shelf. You'd fish one out, pink and wobbly, warm it on the stove, then chase the vinegar bite with boiled potatoes. If luck brought in a rabbit, the pot turned into rabbit stew. You browned the quarters, dropped in wild onions, maybe a carrot, then let it burble until the meat slipped from the bone. One rabbit, 6 bowls, and 0 leftovers. When the meat was out of the question, pasta stepped up. A skillet of macaroni and tomatoes with bacon drippings was the definition of almost nothing cooking. Elbow noodles hit hot bacon fat, and canned tomatoes followed. On cold pay week Fridays, families splurged on oxtail stew. The butcher practically gave the tails away. Brown them hard, drown them in water, toss in barley and carrots, and wait. Hours later, the broth turned silky, the meat fell apart, and the house smelled like hope. Stuffed bell peppers were edible piggy banks. Ground beef, rice, and tomato paste, crammed inside green peppers, baked until the tops blistered. 1 pound of beef fed half a block. A platter of breaded veal cutlets, paper-thin slices fried crisp, made everyone forget payday was still a week away. Instant mashed potatoes on the side, butter melting like liquid gold. And when daylight faded, a bowl of potato soup, crowned with crushed saltines, and a pat of butter tucked the family in. Simple, hot, and enough to fight another day. By week's end, scraps were kings. The heels of the bread bin became bread and milk soup. Hot milk poured over torn bread, with sugar if you had it, or just salt if you didn't. One of those forgotten 1950s meals that was pure survival in a bowl. If someone managed to snag a bit of fish, you'd stretch it with mashed potatoes and leftover onions into salmon patties, fry them golden, slap them on white bread, and suddenly it felt like you'd eaten out. Even if that salmon came from a can. On better days, you'd get liver and onions sizzling in bacon fat, the smell hitting your nose before your feet hit the porch. It was tough, but fried right, it turned tender, and the onions gave it sweetness that fooled you into wanting more. Then there were noodle casseroles, tossed together with whatever cans were around, peas, tuna, maybe cream of mushroom soup. Sprinkle stale crumbs on top, bake it until it bubbled. If it held together when you scooped it, it was a hit. Boiled cabbage and ham hocks was another meal that stunk up the house but filled your gut. A classic retro dinner, boiled until the meat fell off the bone and the cabbage soaked up every bit of smoky flavor. Sometimes you just needed warm and fast. Fried mush did the job. Yesterday's cornmeal mush, sliced and pan-fried in lard until crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. Drizzle syrup if you had it. If not, just salt. And there was hobo stew. Anything in the pantry went into one pot: canned beans, onions, leftover meat, or just a bouillon cube and faith. It didn't have a recipe. It just had grit. Dandelion greens, bitter and wild, were picked by hand and tossed with vinegar or bacon grease if you had it. It wasn't fancy, but it was green, and that meant vitamins. Sometimes lunch was as bare as 2 slices of bread and a thick round of raw onion. No cheese, no sauce, maybe some salt. A true working man's meal that hit hard and fast. On rare sweet-tooth days, folks made mock apple pie. No apples involved, just Ritz crackers soaked in sugar syrup, cinnamon, and a splash of lemon juice. Baked in a crust, it fooled your tongue if not your brain. If you love these old-school meals, make sure to subscribe for more vintage cookbook classics every week.